All right, good evening, everyone. It is our May meeting. It is now 6:30 p.m. and we will begin our meeting for Wednesday, May 10th. Board of Education meeting, roll call.
Edgecombe.
Present.
Franklin. Johnson. Here. Morton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
And Williams.
Here.
Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board of Education reports. We do have a report. Mission statement. Sorry, guys.
Our mission
Trying to get
statement
some business.
is to educate, empower, and inspire the whole child.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Board of Education report. So we do have a couple of things as it relates to the Board of Education. As far as our Board of Education committee reports, we voted last month, if you all could recall, to go to a committee of the whole. So right now, we currently do not have any committee of the whole reports that will start in our upcoming school year. We, as a board, would like to establish a communications committee. And the purpose of the Board of Education Communications Committee will be the communication between the school board and the community it serves. The committee will be responsible for developing, implementing strategies to keep the public informed about the activities and the decisions of the school board, as well as gathering feedback from the community to inform the board's education decision-making processes. So this will be established and moving forward with our committee of the whole. We will be developing and implementing a communications plan that outlines how the board will communicate with the public, including through newsletters, social media, and other channels, creating and distributing press release and other materials to local media outlets to keep them informed about important decisions and events, hosting public forums or town hall meetings to gather feedback from the community members on issues related to the Board of Education, monitoring social media and other online forums to respond to questions and concerns from the public in a timely manner, and developing and maintaining a website or other online platform that provides information about the school board's activities and allow community members to provide feedback and ask questions. By fulfilling these responsibilities as a school board communications committee, we believe this will help build trust and transparency between the school board and the community it serves and ensure that the board is making the decisions that reflects the needs and the values of our constituents. So that will be something that we will be voting on this evening as it relates to our Board of Education committee. As it relates to the next thing on the agenda, our board public comment card. 2 years ago, it was established from IASB, the current comment card that we're currently using. That was established with them, with the previous board. We understand that it's pretty lengthy, and we don't want to seem as harsh as the comment card may come off. So, even with establishing a new board, that we wanted to wait to the transition. We do have 3 additional alternatives to use for our Board of Education comments. And in those 3 comments, we have 6 now? Oh, okay. With those board comments, the board did receive those samples for the 3 that we would be looking to move forth with, and that is something that we would be voting on when we come out of closed session. And we will announce the new one once we come out of closed session so that you all will know that what we're moving forward with as far as the board public comment card. And even if we do not choose one tonight, we will, as a board, write one out so that we can give you a good dialogue where you can understand, but it's not as lengthy and, doesn't seem as harsh. The Board of Education retreat. The Board of Education retreat will be held on Tuesday, June 6th, my apologies. For the new board members, our retreat, we come together as a whole on an off-site location, which we will be using Tinley Park location, which we have a partnership with. This meeting will be one day. The last time we did have a 2-day or weekend. It would engage intensive discussion on planning sessions, and the purpose of the retreat pretty much is to provide a structured environment for the board members to discuss and address important issues facing the school district. At this meeting, we will start implementing some of our strategic planning ideas. We will certainly do team building so that we can enhance the board members to get to know one another and build stronger relationships amongst us. That was something that we were starting to do, and we would like to continue to do as an entire board, is to build stronger relationships amongst the board so that we can improve communication and collaboration. We will also be doing some professional development at the retreat so that we have the opportunity to learn the best practices in education and governance. If time allows, if we don't do it at this retreat, we will do it with the one that we hire on, as we did previously, which is a 2-day weekend, and we will have training sessions held so that we can develop our skills and knowledge as it relates to the Board of Education. And basically, the overall retreat will be to provide a focused, productive environment for the board members to work together and to address important issues facing the schools district. By taking time away from our usual space and routine as board members, this will allow for us to be more progressive and achieve greater outcomes than we will be able to do at a regular board meeting. And that is for our board retreat. Board of Education meet and greet. I think that it's very important, especially having 2 board members, that we do a meet and greet. This meet and greet will include stakeholders. It would include administrative, our teachers, parents. It's a date that we would choose, and we'll have the community come out. You'll just have the chance to meet the new board, previous board members. You'll be able to just be like a fun outing so that we can start getting to know one another, and so that we would know our schools more, our teams, and as well as you all would get to know the Board of Education more. We have yet to establish that date. That is something that I'm looking to do this evening so that we can establish a date so that we could have a communication and a meet and greet to go out to the parents, stakeholders, our administrative team, our teachers, and thus forth. And that will complete the Board of Education report, and I'll turn it over to our superintendent for her superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Before I get into all of the agenda items that I have under the superintendent's report, I know that everyone is aware that we had a really serious situation today at Neil Armstrong. And the one thing that I would like to say about it is you all have received, information, you received letters, you received all of that. But what I do want to say about this is that I am so proud of the Neil Armstrong community, how they came together to keep our children safe. And Principal Etherly, you and Mrs. Tancredi, you did an amazing job. And I would like to tell everyone that we have heroes that live among us. All right? Your children are in good hands, I promise you. I'd like to thank the Richmond Park Police Department, the Matheson Police Department, and how everyone just came together to make sure that this showed the best of us during the worst time. And I'd like to thank everyone for that. I'm going to now get to the other business, the attendance report. As of April, the April report for Colin Powell was 92%, Maria Yates, 91%, Neil Armstrong, 92%, Cedar Prairie, 92%, Woodgate Elementary, 93%, and our Woodgate Pre-K and EC, 90%. Again, parents, it's really important that our young scholars are here present and ready to learn. Our enrollment as of April is 1,746 total students. Colin Powell, we have 612, and Maria Yates, 262, Cedar Prairie, 250, Neil Armstrong, 287, and 335 for Woodgate, and once again, a total of 1,746 scholars. I also would like to just give an overview of our year-to-date discipline. As you all know, I think it was March. I think it was the March meeting in which the Board of Ed did approve the use of Panorama, and it's a much more comprehensive student information system. So currently, we have a system. It's not as comprehensive. So what we have is as of 5/2/2023. We have Colin Powell at 86 in-school suspensions and 83 out of school and 2 alternative placements. Maria Yates, 0 in school and 2 out of school. Neil Armstrong, 3 in school, 5 out of school. Cedar Prairie, 11 in school, 3 out of school. Woodgate, there is a total of 1 in school and 21 out of school. And that is the total for what, as far as the suspensions and in-school suspensions. And I would say that as far as a trend, our biggest to date, the issues that we have had that we are addressing are fighting, and there was a lot of disrespectful, disruptive behavior. So one of the things that I talked about at the State of the District address is that we have put together a very comprehensive social emotional learning, and we want to say plan, something that has been in the works all year, and actually Dr. King will be speaking to that to let everyone know what we are working on. There are SEL standards that we are required to teach. We are also revamping and reimagining our PBIS system, as well as integrating Panorama and Second Step. And so she's going to actually give a presentation later that would explain all of those offerings that we have as it relates to SEL, so that we can combat some of our discipline issues. And Dr. King, I think you're up.
She's gonna have it here too. Yes. You can see it up there.
I'd like to say good evening,
Good evening.
Board of Education, Superintendent Brunson, our executive board.
You have to speak into the mic, or the people
Okay.
can't hear you on
Okay.
your mic.
I thought I was loud. Executive board members, as well as principals and administrators, and visitors and community. This is an overview of our social emotional wellness program. There has been a lot of discussion. We have met countless hours, but I think we have some good stuff. And I'm very pleased. As you look at your table of contents, and the board received a little packet, you can see the pages and the various issues that were discussed and that I will be discussing as well. You might ask yourself, why is social emotional learning so important? But what we have to remember is COVID. And COVID was a time that none of us ever experienced. We have an impact on our children that they have experienced loss, they have experienced pain, hurt, and I was with my granddaughter maybe about 2 weeks ago, and we had gone to a funeral in East St. Louis. And East St. Louis is not the hometown that I grew up in, but it is still my hometown. And as we were leaving, my granddaughter had a very observant moment, and she said, "Nana, look at all of these broken homes." And it struck me because we have children whose hearts are hurting, but we don't see everything's invisible. We can't look and see a broken pane. We can't look and see that someone has a limp. So we, as educators, must do those things that heal the hearts of children. Now, when we talk about social emotional learning, you need to know this is a result of the Illinois State Board of Education, and it came under the Children's Mental Health Act of 2003. There are social emotional standards. There are 10. And we are looking at how do we work with attitudes? How do we recognize and manage emotions? there's a list of things that occur as we are looking at going into the schools, speaking with teachers, meeting with students, and seeing how we can best impact their social emotional learning. Now, we did some planning, and when they say, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. But that's not what we're doing. I look at the number of meetings, and I say, oh, okay, here we go again, here's another one, but it's all good information. And so, as we looked at research, we looked at everything that would be comprehensive. When Dr. Brunson talks about Panorama, I haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of it, but this program does everything. It warehouses your IAR, your NWEA, your student behavior. I mean, you go there and it's everything that you need to know: attendance, grades, conferences, and you don't have to look. We had Satchel Pulse, but it only was one size, and it didn't fit all that we needed. So I thought it did a good job of tiering, but after that, then what else could we do? So that is some information. We're doing second step. We're also relaunching PBIS, and I think there are going to be a lot of exciting activities occurring next year. I'm just going to hold on. Panorama. Okay, I think I've already said something. As we move into 2023 school year, we are creating a warehouse to store, collect, analyze student attendance, behaviors, conferences, grades, and prepare student surveys that are specific to social emotional learning. I'm excited because we're going to be able to pull things apart and dissect and differentiate, and we'll have everything at the tip of a screen. So we're going to provide coaching and support to the administrative staff, the teachers, and the students. Here's what they're talking about: rigor, climate, belonging, referrals, surveys, teacher-student relationships, school safety, MTSS, NWEA, IAR. I was looking at this, and I can understand why they call it Panorama, because it goes out and it takes a complete view, and it looks at everything, and it brings it back to you firsthand. I wanted you to see one of the slides where they talk about, they promote positive behavior, behavior boosts, they do analytics, they do logging, so it has a one warehouse approach. I also gave you a slide just so you could kind of see how it houses behavior, how it looks at attendance, how it shows where a student may be having problems. So if we know that at 6th grade, there are some students and it seems to be a little exchange going back and forth during the hallway as they go to lunch, guess what we do? We're out there. We're monitoring. We don't have to wait. We get the data, and the data tells us, and then we plan. So it is a very powerful program. The benefits. Second step. I've had the opportunity, because I didn't know anything about Second Step, and I am a learner. So when the Second Step approach came and we decided to pilot, we have 25 teachers that said, I'm all aboard. April the 6th, we did a workshop. It was very well received. The teachers had a lot of questions, and they were very happy with the program. I've been out to 11 of the classrooms and observed. So there are 18 classrooms. I only have 7 more, and I still have 3 weeks. So I'm doing pretty good. Here is the pilot. This is what it looked like on that day. Teachers were engaged. They were asking questions. They were very well thought through, and we got great response when they finished their pre-tests. Again, some more pictures. Here's the pre-test. When they walked in, we wanted to know, what do you know about second step? As you look all the way over to your left, these were the scores that came out. When it says, what do you want to know, this is actually the questions that the teachers asked. And then after they got through with the program, we had a couple of 5s, which was the highest that you could get. But what I want you to look at is all the way over to the left, we had a lot of 1s, which basically said, like me, I don't know anything. But by the time we got over to where the teachers had gotten the workshop, we only ended up with what, 2? So that meant the teachers got a lot out of the workshop. They left feeling good about it. And as I go into the classrooms, they are comfortable. And the children are doing a lot of activities. One of my favorite is the brain teaser. That doesn't always mean I can clap and hit it just the way they do, but it is something that our children are enjoying. Now, I won't read these to you, but these were the parking lot issues that the teachers had when we left the workshop. And anything that had a question, we made sure we answered, and we got that information back to the teachers the very next day. I went into a 4th grade classroom that was doing second step, and I just liked the tone of the classroom. I must tell you, a lot of the classrooms that I've gone into, I walk into the classroom with very soft music playing, children reading on computers and just getting ready to start their day, very calm, and here we go. They were doing a lesson on kindness, so they were getting up and they were saying kind things to each other. And I think when children learn kindness, and we're the ones teaching it, and they learn this from home, I'm not saying they don't, but as we teach certain skills and they practice, it becomes second nature. Okay, again, a new initiative. We have PBIS teams, but we had a workshop in March. All administrators came to this workshop along with district staff. As we sat there and the presenter went through a lot of information, there was one thing that she said that was consistent, and that is, if all parts of PBIS are not being used with fidelity, all, not the ones that we like, then our PBIS program will be ineffective, and we will not see the type of behaviors that we want to make sure the students are engaged in. Our infractions will not go down, and our job, at least as I see it, kids come to school, they're safe, they're engaged, they're responsible, they're accountable. Miss Ash did I didn't do everything that she had done, but she did a year at a glance, and this is for all the administrators so they know starting in August, hit the ground running. Here are some expectations. Here are some things that you're going to do. She takes it all the way from August to June. So it's an entire year, but I just gave you a snippet of it. Our PBIS, Ms. Ash and I went out. We did a survey with every PBIS team. And when we finished, 45% of the staff, as they told their truth, came back and said, we're not at 100%. Guys, will we get to 100%? I think we can. But if we get to 80 this year, based on the 45% that the survey showed, if we get to 80%, I can tell you right now, infractions will be down. I can tell you right now, our children are going to be engaged. They're going to be doing activities. They have a store where they go to and they get a chance to get pencils and all kinds of little stickers and things that children enjoy because they have earned it. And that earning is that great behavior and the expectation that we set. So this is the survey. I'm not reading it, I'm just going through. As you can see, strongly agree. We don't have anything where we're talking about documented processes. As we look at agree, we have 15%. Panorama's going to change that. Again, all of these are slides, and they're showing you what we got from the survey. But we had to relaunch PBIS because when you know a thing and you know it's not right, then you got to come back and do better. That's what educators do. So here we go, classroom data. That's it. Do you have any questions?
I do. I'm sorry. I do. I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, this is going to be for Mrs. Fields because she's my curriculum piece.
Okay.
How are we going? Have you looked at it yet? Do you know how we're going to work it into our Epiphany plan? To see the kids and the different, like far as their grades and their scores and things like that, and where it places them on a panoramic. Is it going to be able to talk to the piece that you're working on?
So we're excited about Panorama because Mrs. Fields, you gotta come to the mic. Well, people online can't hear you.
Sorry.
Good evening, board and
Good
families. So what Panorama will do will give us academic data as well as behavioral data. So what we will do then is it also gives us interventions for academic and behavior. So then that's where our MTSS Tier 2 and Tier 3 will come in at, because once we've identified the skill deficits for academics as well as the social emotional needs for children, then we could develop a comprehensive plan to provide those supports to students. So they will be done by the teachers as well as our social workers, and for Colin Powell, a professional school counselor.
Awesome. So will we be able to present that like before school starts so we can kind of see what that
Yes.
will look like?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, as well as the interventionist.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, not yet, Dr. King. I know. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was great and, just very thorough. Just wondering, I know you said one part was second step. How would that look at the middle school, just in terms of, or have you even talked about that in terms of?
I have gone over to the middle school. Miss Ford, at this point in time, I think, is doing, she has gone into a classroom, a sixth grade classroom, and they are getting the same information. It's grade appropriate. So when I went in that classroom, students were talking about, which I was happy to hear, end of the year. What are some triggers that could occur that would have them have a problem at the end of the year? And they had to go and have discussions and talk about what those things were. Now, I do believe that it is going to hit, it starts off in August talking about goals. And then it goes into emotions and what emotions do and how different people can relate. And then it goes into self-awareness and management. So it hits all of those CASEL skills, and it does it at a much higher level But what I like is, we didn't have anything for pre-K through 5, and now we do.
And I like that about the Second Step program. You know, the biggest thing I think, and, you know, and that's a future discussion, is just making sure the time, you know, because especially with the middle school schedule and, okay.
So I'll answer that because I knew that was your second part of your question, is that what we're doing right now is looking at the schedule so that they can have that time, homeroom time, because that is the time in which where it needs to be taught. So the middle school schedule will have that homeroom time, and the same thing at the elementary schools. They'll do it morning meeting time like that, and so it will be embedded because we have to make the time in order for it to be taught. So yes.
You knew where I was going. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. King.
Yeah, so I had a couple of questions as well. With the surveys, have we determined who we're going to be surveying? Is it just for the students? Or are we going to be surveying parents as well and staff?
Now, maybe someone can help me, but I've been looking at student, and I just did something different. Okay, I've been looking at student surveys. Now, Dr. Brunson, will we go to parents? Or?
So as it relates to Panorama, those will be surveys that will be for students, things that they will be asked about their connection to school, sense of belonging, relationships with their teachers. With K-12 Insight, which we already use for Let's Talk, we already have that platform, but we will be basically turning it on for the next school year. What I tried to do this year is to not have too many new things, because you do too many new things, they don't get done well. And so that is this, the next layer of that. And yes, those surveys, we will be able to have those. They will disaggregate the data for us. We actually have our training on the 18th. Is that? Yeah, on the 18th, trying to keep all these dates in my head. So May 18th for that. And then our Panorama thorough training is on June 5th.
Okay, thank you for that. And then one other question I had was, you know, around the survey creation, are we going to involve teachers or staff in that? And before, like, we survey the children, are we going to get the teachers' input on what, you know, information they want?
Yeah, so there's like a bank of questions, and it just depends on what we want to know. So if we want to know about school belonging, there's a bank of questions for that. Relationships with your teachers, there's a bank of questions for that. So it really is, we can basically turn on whichever from the bank of questions that yes, it's customizable, depending on the information that we actually want to gather. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Dr. King.
Thank you.
My second favorite, Dr. King. Dr. King, our heavenly doctor in the upper room. So, yes. So now we will have the fantastic Mrs. Erin Thorne representing the Woodgate Wildcats.
Good evening.
Yes, because they won't be able to hear you
On YouTube.
All right.
on YouTube.
Got to get my positioning correct. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, no.
You can take it off.
That might be
Yeah,
better.
that might
Oh, I
be
like
easier.
that. It feels
Yeah.
better. Okay. Okay. I am super excited to be here and standing here and share our journey at Woodgate this year. I can't believe that it is May and we're already at the end of the school year. My first year as principal at Woodgate. Oh, it's been exciting. I hit this one right here, if I can hit the button the right way. All right, so our journey began back in August when we welcomed our students and our staff and our families. And the first task that we wanted to complete was to develop a vision and a mission statement for Woodgate. We wanted it to reflect School District 159's vision and mission, and we also wanted to embrace our values. We asked staff, we asked students, we asked parents and community members what they wanted for our children. We asked our staff, who do we serve? What do we want to get done, and how are we going to accomplish that? We asked our students what they needed from their teachers, what they needed from their physical environment, and also what they needed from their classmates. And of course, our parents and our community members, we asked what their wants and needs were for our students. So after much collaboration, our vision reads, empower students and lead them toward success by providing an inclusive environment and quality education that supports the whole child. Our mission. At Woodgate Elementary School, we believe all students have the right to learn in a safe, welcoming, nurturing, inclusive, and challenging environment. By fostering relationships between students, parents, staff, and community members, it is our goal to support and develop all students by creating realistic goals. Our values. Our first professional development, I asked our staff, what do they value? Ironically, family falls right in the middle. And I truly believe after this year, our Woodgate, we were a team, but now we're a family. Our next task was to develop an instructional leadership team. Our instructional leadership team consists of a teacher from each grade level, as well as our reading specialist and the administrative team. Our purpose of the ILT team is to encourage a culture of collaboration amongst teachers to improve instruction. The primary work of our team was to improve instruction by focusing on student learning, evaluating our growth, and reflecting, collaborating on our next steps. Some data that I would like to share with you tonight is one of the pieces that we looked at in the winter, at our mid-year point. Where were we? So looking at NWEA, where was our growth? The blue represents where we are. The little orange diamond represents projected growth. So where were we expected to go? And we're excited to see where we're going to be next week at the end of the year as we take our end of the year benchmark test. But you can see kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fifth grade, we surpassed that projected growth. And that's for math. The bottom part for reading, kindergarten, second grade, fifth grade, again, surpassing that growth. Where we looked at first grade, third grade, and fourth grade, and we're just below that. So the questions we ask are why, and what are we going to do to continue to grow our children? Science, third grade surpassed that projected growth. Fourth grade met that goal. Fifth grade, we're right there at the tip. So from this data, we knew that we had to come up with some plans. What are we going to do to improve? We needed some instructional goals. We needed to strengthen our instructional practices. So the first thing that we looked at was planning and preparation. We have to have a good plan in place. So we had to make sure that our plans were, of course, aligned with the instructional state standards, that we were performance-based, and that we're collaborating with our grade level partners, not only with our partners that are the same grade as us, but across grade levels. What's happening in first grade, what's happening in second grade, and having those crucial conversations, and observing in each other's classrooms as well. We have utilized the educational epiphany. There are performance-based objectives posted in all of our classroom, as well as utilized, not just posted. And we have a common vocabulary that we're using amongst grade levels as well. We took a deep dive into our curriculum, aligning it with our state standards, focusing on one standard at a time, working towards mastery, and one objective at a time, and also focusing on the foundational skills. We learned that that is crucial. We have to have a strong foundation before we can continue to learn. And providing small group instruction, but making sure that it's a meaningful small group instruction. Another piece of data that we took a look at was our attendance data. You can see across the board, each month we are above that 90%, except for December, when unfortunately it was cold and flu and Christmas season. April, we ended a little over 93%. We want to do better, and we will continue to do better. And from that, we know that students can't learn unless they're in the building. Students can't learn unless they're at school. So we have to make that a welcoming place. We want them to want to come to Woodgate every day. Not only our students, but our staff as well. So we needed to create culture and climate goals. So my culture and climate goals as the administrator were to establish quality relationships with all staff members. And this is something that Dr. Mays and myself wanted to instill in our staff as well, that they all have positive relationships with one another. Sharing our weekly updates, providing key information, having an instructional focus at all times, and highlighting our accomplishments. Being a good listener. We want a culture where feedback is open and honest. What's working, what's not working, what do we need to change? And of course, affirming and celebrating our strengths and our assets. We, as an administrative team, read the book, The Listening Leader, which is a great read. The powerful takeaways is that power lies in relationships. Listening creates relationships, and listening builds trust. And we have to have trust. If we don't have trust with one another, we're not going to help our children grow. One of our goals was to celebrate the gift of reading, to bring reading back, make reading fun for our students. We had our annual reading night. We had our Scholastic Book Fair. We also had a fundraiser called Books Are Us. You can see Ms. Benton with her pirate hat on announcing our winners. Our theme was pirates through that week. We also had many, many guest readers from our community as well as our parents. It was great to see people in the building again and enjoying that gift of reading with our students. And of course, our lending library, which every day I see kids taking books and returning books as they're walking in and out of school. You're a star. And then PBIS. We knew that we needed to revamp our PBIS and make it a little stronger. We have weekly incentives, which include things as prizes. We had Chalk the Walk. We've had freeze dance, freeze pop parties. And then also our end of the quarter celebrations for our students that meet their expectations. We've had Staley the Bear in, as well as Jessie White tumblers. And the kids really, really enjoyed that. We've had great turnout for our PTO and FACE events. We had a great trunk or treat event in October. We've had a Mad Scientist performance. Our sneaker ball was a success. We had a holiday tree raffle, as well as family game night, and many other fun events. Other special events were our fall parade. We had a great Veterans Day parade and performance, all of our holiday programs, having strong community partnerships, and of course our Black History program. One thing that we do at Woodgate School is we have weekly positive principal referrals. And this is something that I think all staff and students have great buy-in to. We ask staff members to write referrals for our kids that are following the expectations and doing well in the classroom. And then we celebrate them. Their names are announced on the announcements. They come down, they get a referral, they get a small token. And our teachers are also rewarded too. They get their name put into a raffle when they write a positive principal referral. And I want to end with this. Today is a great day to learn something new. And this has been our motto at Woodgate, not only for our students, but also for our staff. We at Woodgate believe that we are lifelong learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thorne.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we will have the irreverent, charismatic Neil Armstrong. Astros, come on down. Mrs. Atherley and Mrs. Tancredi.
I'm assuming the first button is to move forward.
Yes, you are correct. To your right. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Frank?
Good evening, elementary school board members, 159. Dr. Brunson, fellow district colleagues, community members, and visitors. Michelle and I dedicate this meeting to the Astro community. We especially dedicate this meeting to our tall Astros. We are a community that believes that we are tenacious and sagacious in reaching every student, because every student can learn. What we have discovered today is that we are not only a community filled with Astro pride, we possess Astro power. We are powerful beyond measure, and we will continue to do so. Come the rain, the shine, and even rain is nothing but liquid sunshine anyway. So with this said, I'm going to co-present this information. Each of you have received hard copies. We understand you have electronic, but in case your eyes would like to defer to something a little more gentle. So, what you have before you is the mission statement, and I'd like you to focus on the word to connect. We had, prior to COVID, a much lengthier mission statement. And one of the things that we discovered upon our return is that connection is the foundation of everything. You cannot touch or teach a child if they are hungry or if they are in emotional need. Also notice that it says astro. It does not say tall. It does not say small, because a family is a family, and your dimension and age is nothing but a trait of who you are as a human being. We are to be productive and successful as one. Last year, our 5 essentials showed that we were organized for improvement. And if you are not familiar with the 5 essentials, organized means that at that time, last year, Neil Armstrong met 3 or more of the major benchmarks that will allow us to be 10 times more successful in meeting academic goals within the state of Illinois. Some of those areas of strength was academic press. Academic press speaks to the teacher's ability to not only have great expectations, but the students know that we have great expectations. Quality of discussion, instructional leadership, so on and so forth. So for the next 6 slides, thank you. For the next 6 slides, you will see a sense of redundancy, but they all share the same pattern. For both the benchmark beginning of the year for math, ELA, and science respectively, you will notice that we have circled the red areas, which is the greatest risk of our students, percentage by grade, that were unable to meet benchmarks. So as a SIP team, when we decided what goal we were going to make between the beginning of the year and the end of the year, we all decided that red is too large. So we decided that between the beginning of the year and the end of the year, we would decrease students performing at the lowest level by 15%. What you will now see is that I have a chart to make it easier. That, what you see under the fall, was the percentage of students not making benchmark. The third column is the winter. That is what they actually did. The middle is the goal. So, for instance, it says that 13% of kindergartners were not meeting. What they actually did was 8%. The goal was 11. We clearly exceeded that goal. And we have yet to take the NWEA, which we will take next week. And again, as I articulated earlier, you'll see that same pattern going. So we are very proud. And there you have reading. And then you have middle of the year. Here you have science. I forgot that circle. And then you have the middle of the year, which lets us know that whatever it is that we are doing, we are on the right track so we can make whatever reflections or revisions as needed to meet the needs of our students.
You can do it. Okay, the next part that you're going to see is our administrative student achievement goals. Mrs. Utherly and I sat down as a collaborative team and came up with our student achievement goals. And what we wanted to do is, our goal was, we wanted a 10% improvement of students meeting and exceeding the NWEA standards. And we chose different grade levels. First grade, we chose reading. And for fall, we had a 22%. To winter is 24%. That was our goal, to get them to 24%, meeting or exceeding. Our actual goal was 30% of the students, which was a 36% increase. So we far surpassed that 10% improvement. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can take a look here. We can do grade 4 math. Our goal from fall was 28, to winter 30.8. Our actual percentage of students was 14%. And if you do see there, that was a 50% decrease. In the 2019-2020 school year, these students were in first grade. We all know what happened in 2019-2020. It was COVID. So second grade was virtual for them. And that is a very important grade level because they learn a lot of foundations. They use manipulatives to add and subtract. They didn't get to do that. So we saw with our fourth graders, a lot of our fourth graders are missing those basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division skills. Overall, our reading had an increase of 48%. Our math did have an overall decrease of 16.2, and this is based only on the grade levels shown, first, second, fourth, and fifth.
So now we go into, well, what are you going to do about it? And as you are all acutely aware, Elementary School District 159 has engaged in a very deep professional development utilizing educational epiphany. So what you're looking at is the heart of the walkthroughs, beginning of the year, mid-year walk, and the end of the year walk. The end of the year walkthrough was conducted by Mrs. Tancredi and ourselves last week. Let me go back for a minute. If you remember the slide with the rainbow colors, the red, the orange, the yellow, before we can even entertain MTSS or special education or any of that, as a general education teacher, you need to ask yourself what percentage of the students are meeting the core. Clearly, when you add the blue and the green of each of those pages, that is less than 80%. And that is a barometer to the teacher that if less than 80% of your students are failing to meet the core, that is an instructional core 1 issue. It's not a SPED issue, it's not an MTS, and I'm not dismissing any of that. But what it means is the majority of your students are struggling to ascertain what is needed for college and career readiness. The biggest way you change that is with learning objectives. So it was paramount that we all spoke the same language, we all walked the same way, and we all danced to the same tune. And so by the time we get to the end of the year, 94% of our teachers were writing objectives that supported the district initiative of educational epiphany, and then we only had one teacher where her objective was flawed. So if I was to apply the principles of MTSS or TIERS, I think that is quite impressive on behalf of our teachers at Elementary School District 159, specifically at Neil Armstrong. So again, what are we going to do about it? We are approaching the end of the school year. So we met together as a SIP and then later on with our entire school community. And it is paramount because, again, we're talking about the core. You need to teach educational epiphany vocabulary with fidelity. It is a non-negotiable, firm aspect of what it is we do. HMH is the core curriculum. I understand we have supplemental materials, but you have to honor the core. Next year, we will be in our 3rd year of implementation. So while many may say, well, you've been doing this 3 years, but now we've added the layer of educational epiphany to support and fine-tune with razor-like precision how we're going to do that. Phonics phonemic awareness, as Mrs. Tancredi spoke earlier about 4th grade, because again, I want you to wrap your mind around that. That cohort of students were 1st graders in COVID. At a drop of a dime, they had to be told to go home, and we all had to figure it out and build the rocket ship while flying at the same time. 2nd grade, we're still in there. So I want you to really, really think about what that looked like. So by the time they came to us in 4th grade, COVID's over, we're moving forward. Sorry, you might have to sanitize that. We're moving forward. So let's see what you got. And that's okay. It's no different than going to a doctor. That's why you get checkups. That's why you get tests. And then one of the things we also spoke about is we started doing some research and looking at Great Minds, which is a program that allows and helps small group instruction fine-tune bring that phonemic awareness to the greatest level. Intermediate grade said we would like to go back to some reading A to Z because it just has a plethora of level readers that goes beyond what is provided with HMH. Because they do provide level readers, but it does stop at a certain point. And again, the data shows, for instance, like for fourth grade, we need to dig deeper, and that's okay. Because the cool thing with reading A to Z, you could still have the same topic, dinosaurs. So no one will feel isolated. You're all reading about dinosaurs. You're just reading it at your level, and nobody knows what's in your hand. And you could still engage in a deep conversation. And then providing our scholars with frequent opportunities to write for a variety of purposes across disciplines. The next thing we also said that we're going to do, in which we utilize our ESSER funds, is we are now going to have grade level novel studies. One of the things that we wanted to create was a community of literacy based on joy. We have somehow lost the joy of reading for passion and enjoyment. And each of those titles, for each of those grade levels, when you look up the Lexile score, it goes across grade levels. For those who are struggling and those who are exceeding or at the enrichment area, they can actually have dialogue. How many of us are already talking about Queen Charlotte? Okay, these kids will have their own type of Queen Charlotte, Bridgerton moment. Well, did you know what happened to Junie B? Did you know what happened here? And they're doing it as a grade level. And then they get to celebrate with maybe some theater or watching a movie, do a Venn diagram. How is the book different from the movie or the Nickelodeon show? And then take a look at the covers. You have treasured classics like Frog and Toad. You have high interest books. But also, what we learned from COVID, cultural affirmation is power. So we now have titles that are culturally affirming with new avant-garde artists, and it helps bridge the gap of what is happening in our society because our students know about it anyway. So we might as well control the environment.
Thank you. And now our action plan for mathematics. Once again, with educational epiphany to teach that vocabulary with fidelity. We are not going to allow a teacher to say, there's a different word I'd rather use. Absolutely not. Non-negotiable, as Mrs. Etherly had said. Reveal math. We need to teach the core curriculum with fidelity. That's also a non-negotiable. We have the curriculum. Yes, we can supplement it for small group, but we need to use the curriculum with our students. We did notice that we are lacking in some areas, and that is in number and operations, and we are going to work on mathematical fluency and computational basic facts. As a former math teacher, if you cannot add and subtract, you cannot multiply and divide. If you can't add and subtract or multiply and divide, you can't do decimals, fractions. Geometry is going to be a challenge, so will probability and statistics. So you need that foundation in order to be successful. In order to do this, we are going to have some parent universities, which we call our Etherly Espresso, that will have the homeschool connection. We also use some ESSER funds to purchase some wonderful family math night materials, and we're also going to use some of our own materials that teachers may come up with.
So then, of course, we need to have our incentives. Now, naturally, we do have incentives for making benchmarks with NWEA and chapter assessments. But we decided as a staff, we need to dig deeper. We need to make sure that our students understand what Common Core standards are and actually give rewards and praise for meeting it, having some type of accountability. So if it's basic 10 facts, that is going to be the school-wide mission, and we're going to celebrate that. If it is the mastery of certain things like theme, author's purpose, because again, we just wait for quizzes, we just wait for tests. We need to be very laser sharp and specific. And then again, part of educational epiphany was the understanding of Greek and Latin roots. And one of the things that I'm always reminded about our kids is that you are amazed at how much they can memorize when it's put to music and a beat. So don't tell us that they can't memorize Greek and Latin roots.
Okay, it's student attendance. We did ours quarterly, and quarter one, we were at 92.9%. Quarter two, we did see a drop to 89.1%, and this was during a time, specifically in November, we had a rough time, few days at Neil Armstrong, where we had quite a few students out with COVID, flu, strep, RSV. And quarter three, we are at 91.8. We have noticed this year in particular, since the onset of COVID, that parents are more likely to keep students home when they're not feeling well. That is something we noticed. Also, we did a 98 is great attendance incentive. It was on the former slide, where we were encouraging students to come to school, and we were calling it 98 is great. And if the homeroom had 98% attendance for the month, they got something special. And the something special was chosen by them. So you can see we did have several homerooms that made it. And these are also, I don't know if they know it yet officially, but these are also the children that are going to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony for the playground. So they'll be the first ones that get to play on the new playground. Not only are we doing attendance for the school year, we are celebrating students that had perfect attendance during IAR and ISA. So any student that had 100% attendance during the testing, they were treated to a movie in our multi-purpose room. We popped popcorn and we had juice for them, and they were able to watch Peter Pan and Wendy, which just came out on Disney Plus, and they were probably one of the first group of students to see it. They enjoyed it. They had a great time. And I'm telling you, you could have heard a pin drop in the multi-purpose room. Now, our goal this year was 98 is great. And what we want is we want more students, more homerooms to be able to reach a goal. And when Mrs. Etherly and I sat down and talked, we both agreed that maybe 98 was a little high to start out with. So we're going to have a new goal for next year, and it's going to be we thrive when we strive for 95. And our hope is that we're going to have more homerooms that get to have the special treat. Some of our treats included, just so you know, extra recess. One group wanted candy, so I got their favorite candy. They put in their order and they got their favorite candy. We did an ice cream party, and then another group wanted either pizza, chicken, or donuts, and they said I could choose.
And in case you're wondering, not only were the students given an incentive, teachers in which their class met that threshold was given a coupon book where they got to choose Bed Bath & Beyond basket, principal parking spot, or lunch on us. So they also received an incentive. So as we're winding down, we are going to review some of the astronomical affairs at Neil Armstrong. As many of you know, we are in our third year with the Museum of Science Industry Partnership, and so we celebrated that. You have in the middle our not only MSI, but our building leadership, school improvement team, and this year was the second year we had Family Science Night. So again, this is a scaffolding, so to speak, of how we get that homeschool. We've always had Family Reading Night, so then we said, well, let's do Family Science Night. We did it last year, this year we did it, and the Museum of Science Industry gifted us with 2 family memberships to raffle off, and they even had an exhibit of their own. Hence why now, after 2 years of Family Science Night, we're now going to do Family Math Night for the first time. part of that parent university we affectionately call Ethically Espresso. And what you will find is every month we have a topic that we're going to discuss. Students are welcome to attend. I believe in September, the top chart is data, where we explain data to our families. The bottom, we address bullying. We have a parent who owns a beauty salon, and she gave away coupons to get your hair styled and coiffed for free for 5 students. And in order to encourage parents to come, every parent that arrived, their child got to come to school out of uniform. So the kids helped me get them in this building. To celebrate PBIS.
Okay. PBIS did some fun things this school year. We did have the Grinch come in. There were people from district who came over, and he was amazing. You would have thought it was a real Grinch. You can see he does have one of our small Astros upside down. We figured for testing, we wanted to do something special before IAR and ISA testing, and what better than an assembly for our 3rd through 5th graders with the Jessie White tumblers. So PBIS did sponsor that. We also had a spring fling where we had different stations available for the students to go to, and they were spring related. And our pastries with parents, we did have pastries with parents. We had over 130 people, so it was approximately 60 families there, where they came in and had breakfast with their child. And for our spring fling, I forgot to say, one of the great things is every single station was run by a parent volunteer. So we had parents who came in and volunteered. We let them make the station their own. And we're planning on doing something for Fun Days very similar. No peeps. I already ordered for next year. They're little ducks.
One of the things, if you remember, our mission is about connection. So it's important that we live a purposeful life. So what you see in the first column is that we participated in the Richton Park food drive, and that was just one dolly of many in which we really just gave as much as we could to those who are less fortunate, because just like Walter Hawkins says, someone would rather be in your shoes, so please be grateful. We have our student council where we talk about civic duties in the middle. In the top, would that be your right or would that be my left? I'll let you all decide. We spent an evening at Culver's. This is our 2nd through 5th grade sign language club. No one was allowed to talk. We had to order our meals using sign language. We had to communicate in sign language. Sometimes we need to be reminded again who you are and where you are is a place of gratitude. Bottom, entrepreneurship, students creating vending machines. And now we are into our leadership development and growth. As you are all acutely aware, we have all engaged in the book study of The Listening Leader, and I will not read that to you, nor will Mrs. Tancredi, but in a succinct version, for me, my takeaway was the strategic listening. I pride myself on brevity. I pride myself on let's just get it done and get fixed and let's get moving. And I had to be reminded through this book that sometimes asking the right question and being the conduit to discovery empowers others to own their choices. And even if the choice fails, there is power in your mistake, because mistake means growth, especially if you learn from it the first time.
And I took out of the listening leader practicing deep listening. And I can just say that was practiced tremendously today. And it was just going to a person and saying, do you need to vent? Do you need to talk? Do you need me to listen? And that's what I did. You just listen. Sometimes that's all a person needs, is for you to listen.
What we both shared in common, the third lesson, was the champagne test. If you notice, I never shared our vision because once I read the champagne test, I was like, done, we're not going there. So our goal is to craft a short and crisp, clear vision that inspires a real can-do attitude. We want to pop the vouvet with accuracy. Before we accept any questions you may have, I want you to know that last week, Mrs. Tancredi and I were fortunate to be in a room of 500 people, a combination of administrators and the leadership of the Illinois Principals Association, in which 2 of our students were honored. Jiro Pia was honored for having a GPA of 4.0 and Trinity Hicks 3.95. What we do is what we do. The main thing is the main thing. So we thank you for your attention. What questions can we answer for you?
Don't have any. Besides, what additional resources do you think that your building may need for your students to help you reach some of those additional goals that you,
Social emotional. I understand that we are gifted in some areas by having a full-time social worker. I do. But sometimes I just wonder if maybe we need 1.5.
Okay.
Because I know that between myself, Mrs. Tancredi, and Mr. Dowdell, pardon me, Dr. Brunson, I was tired. Okay. We have some children that are coming in broken. And as best as we can to pick up the pieces, the reality is you will know when a man is homeless, but you won't know if he's hungry. We can hide our hunger. And while we're trying to meet the mandates and the needs of students with IEPs, we have students who have yet to be recognized or identified in the first place. So while we're tracing, running around in the building as an ambulance chaser to mend and heal and fix, we need to make sure that we have the same type of speed and energy to those who have already established, I'm diabetic, I have high blood pressure, I need your help, and somehow you're gone because someone else needs you. That would be the first thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing is to increase our capacity to provide professional development to our IAs so they could truly provide interventions and truly be the nurses that they can to the doctors, which are the teachers. You want me to keep going?
Yes, I do.
I'm looking at Dr. Brunson, so I'm going to be brief. And I promised I would be brief.
No, I want to know.
We also need to make sure that we leave time and space to truly check in on our building leaders. I will always give you a public service announcement speech. Check in on our leaders. Create that environment where it's safe to be honest. And I say that in general. Okay.
That's kind of one of the reasons why we do want to start our communications committee, so that you can have open and, any building leader, open, honest communication with the Board of Education, and then we can be delivered so it increase our morale in the buildings.
I appreciate the question. There's many more, but I am going to charge it to my head, and please don't charge it to my heart. It has been a day. Again, thank you, and many props to the Tall Astros, because they did the thing. They made us look good. Thank you.
Thank you once again. And now, Mrs. Owens, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but it is your time.
Make it quick.
Good evening, Board of Education and our ESD 159 family. Sorry to bore you with these numbers. They are fun to me, but not to all. So tonight I have a few items to go over with the board. We'll start with the STEM. I'll go into BMO, which is off a little bit from the way I usually do it, but for good cause. Food service, and then fund balance, which incorporates the tentative amended budget. STEM expenditure report. We have done some reconciliation with the contractor for the expenditures for the STEM. There was a couple meetings ago where I discussed that I believe that the company had one item for about $52,000 that they placed in the wrong line. It should have been a change order and not an actual cost to the project. And so we did some reconciliations. So the numbers may be different from what you used to see, but I mentioned that I was going to work with them to make sure that that was corrected. And it has been corrected. So tonight I have for you that the original beginning balance prior to the bid was $5,800,960, which you see in the upper left-hand corner. After the bids came through, the cost of the project was $7.7 million. From there, the construction cost alone, that's for the construction cost, we have paid to date $7,769,380.41. We have left to pay $322,625.89. The built-in cash allowance that you see, that column, that $130,000 column, we have $129,898.12 that has been accounted for. That is inclusive of the $7.7 million project from the beginning. The architect's cost in the second to last column was $765,771.67. To date, we have expended $768,944.77, which is $3,173 above what was initially listed. And I want to explain that. Whenever we have a project, and you'll see in the highlighted section, the cost, the dollar amount of $8,092,006.30. Anytime we have change orders that are outside of the built-in allowance, it goes towards the original project cost, increasing it. So where we began at 7.7, we are now at $8.1 million. So the architects receive 9.5% of the construction cost. So therefore, when that increases, the amount of change orders outside of the allowance increases, it increases the overall project, thereby increasing the amount due to the architects. So that is why you see that amount that we have paid over the initial project cost. Any questions regarding the STEM expenditure report? The next, we have the BMO purchases for this board report. There's $9,241.78. These are the expenditures, once again, that are used via the district credit card. This month, we have no cost in the superintendent's column for the card. These purchases are simply because there are vendors that do not accept payment outside of credit cards. And so these will be charged to the appropriate account, as you see listed on the far right column, which aligns with the vendor and the date. So if you have any questions, let me know regarding the BMO purchases. Fund balance report. This fund balance report is for March of 2023. Everything that I'm going to go through here is going to compare March of 2023, and I'll compare it to March of 2022. And it gives us a snapshot of if the district's finances, if we have nothing left and we end out at the end of March of 2023 or 2022, what position we would be in. So we have a beginning balance of $38,776,100.10. The revenue to date, as of March of 2023, $31,058,825.16. The expenditures, $31,256,596.71. We would have an ending fund balance of $38,578,328.55. This in comparison to where we were last year at this same point in time, where we had a beginning balance of $38,098,840.11. Very, very, very close. And we had a revenue of $36,489,363.18. Our expenditures this same time last year, $27,337,801.48, where we would have had a fund balance of $47,250,401.81. Are there any questions regarding the fund balance? Now, what you see here, this is what we call the limitation of administrative cost. It's a worksheet that is.
I do have a question, though.
Sure.
I'm sorry, if you can go back to the,
Which one, 2023 or 22?
2023. Just wanted to go by the description. For the expense for educational purposes. Just want to know the difference on what more did we spend on? Was that the educational epiphany? What in the education expense did we spend more that we did 17 versus the 21? I'm just trying to see that because I know
I can give you a greater breakdown at a later time, but the educational fund, it consists of hundreds of account lines. And to tell you tonight which costs were different from last year, could be a number of different things, different costs that we have, but the educational epiphany, the cost is very, very small in proportion to the difference in the expenditures for last year and this year. But I can tell you that we would be looking at construction this year versus last year. So we have construction projects that are taking place that we have to spend funding on. But that would be the bigger chunk. The educational epiphany is around about $300,000, which is a nickel to the fund balance.
okay, because I would believe that some of the construction would be under capital projects.
You're right. I was looking at the overall.
Okay.
The overall. Let me go back to.
You don't have it in front of you. If you could just answer that or send it out, just so that we'll know what that jump is, because I haven't seen it that high in a while. I just want to make sure to know what we're spending much more on educational, especially if the schools are not really telling us what their true resources are that they're getting from the Board of Education. Just want to know. That's all.
Okay. Sure. I'll provide a breakdown of the accounts, the way they rolled out from 2022 for the Ed Fund as well as 2023.
Yeah, because does educational, that doesn't include the salaries,
Yes.
increases? It does?
It's
Okay,
all of
because
that.
could be yeah, so I would like to just
It's
see that.
yeah, that's why I said it could be it's many
Yeah.
different factors. So I'll have to take a look at it and see which ones are major.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as far as this limitation of administrative cost worksheet, when the budget is prepared, the budget has a worksheet that, as you see here, where it allows us to assess what has been expended on administrative costs versus what has been budgeted in the current year. So we look at the prior year actual expenditures versus the current year's budgeted expenditures. The difference is, of course, what we actually spent, not what we budgeted for the prior year. The ruling is that that difference must only increase by 5% or less. It cannot exceed 5% of an increase, okay? So one of the things that took place, we had the auditor come and present. And during his presentation, this is one of the things that was brought up as something that had to be rectified. And I explained to the board that I would be going through this and we would be doing an amended budget to make sure that that is rectified. So as you see here, in 2022, if you're looking at actual expenditures for fiscal year 2022, you'll see a total column where that total reads $1,683,488. And then if you look over to the far right, the total column under budgeted expenditures for fiscal year 2023, you see it's $1,850,839. And so that is what was in the presentation for the auditors that needed to be reconciled. And it left us at a marking of 10%, that the increase was 10%. And so we had to make sure that we reevaluated and make sure that we are in the range for compliance. And so therefore we are moving into having an amended budget for this school year. This is showing the reconciliation that was done and the dollar amounts and how now we are within compliance because now the increase is only 5%. And so what I do want to note is that during fiscal year 2022, I took a look at a deep dive into the account codes for salaries to see who was being paid from these administrative accounts. I found that there were administrators, there were employees that were not technically administrators and should not have been paid from these accounts. However, because that year is closed, there's nothing that we can really do about the prior year. So moving forward, this year, what was done was those employees were moved into the right accounting codes to make sure that they're being paid appropriately. There is a specific account code structure for principals. There's a separate one for superintendents. There's a separate one for business managers. And so we wanted to make sure that we were pushing this out and making sure that everybody is in the correct, we call it the correct function. So as you see now, the prior year stays the same, the 1.6 million. And now for this year, we're at $1,761,981. Keep in mind that as far as administrative costs go, we would have probably been at about 4%, but we had to create an additional position, which was the STEM director, which is a position that the district did not have before. And so we're on target, we are in compliance. And so in order for this to happen and we reconcile, we must amend the budget. So I'll go into the breakdown for the timetable. So as of May 11th, the tentative budget will need to go on display. And it will outline, we will have to have a public hearing, and it will outline in that public hearing, the notice in the paper will let everyone know when that public hearing is and where they are able to inspect the tentative amended budget. It'll also let them know the time period that they have to do it as well as the time span. So they will have from May 11th to the day of the hearing, the public hearing, which will be on June 14th, the next board meeting. And it will happen between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. here at the district office. So once again, it will be placed in the newspaper. It will be on public display here at the district office, and it will be available to be reviewed between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, with the exception of holidays. May 10th, the Board of Education will review the tentative amended budget, which is tonight, and reminding the community of the public hearing for this budget, which will be held on June 14th, 2020. It should say 2023. My apologies. And then June 14th, the district will hold a public hearing on the budget, that tentative amended budget, and approve that final budget. Prior to June 30th, this approved budget will be filed with the county as well as Illinois State Board of Education. Are there any questions regarding the timetable? Here's the major focus for the tentative amended budget. The ESSER 3 funds for our capital project of the Seton Prairie addition, we originally budgeted for that $1.9 million to be received this year. Because the project won't commence until the summer, late summer, beginning of fall, the way the grants work, because this is a federal grant, we have to expend the funds and then we get the funding from the federal government. So because we have not expended the funds for the project yet, we will not receive the revenue for the project. So what I did was remove that $1.9 million because it will not be spent for this project yet, and which therefore it won't be received. So that was a major focus. The second major focus is the limitation of administrative costs being adjusted. And so we are now in compliance because we are under the 5% threshold. Are there any questions regarding our focus of why we have this tentative amended budget? This is just a breakdown of the budget by fund. The ed fund, we have the beginning balance of $31.9 million, and then the revenues of 36. We anticipate $36.6 million. We anticipate expenditures of 29.1, with a ending balance of 29.7. That is one of our major areas. So also in the capital projects fund, originally we had anticipated the 1.9 million where you see zero, and I just wanted to point out that you see now it is zero because that 1.9 million has been removed. Those were the major focus points. Should everything go as planned, according to the amended budget, we would have revenues received of $44,271,716, with expenditures of $41,097,079, to leave us with an anticipated ending fund balance of $41,964,759. Are there any questions regarding the projected fund balance? And this is a little smaller to read, but this is the tentative amended budget that will go on display, that will be able to be reviewed once again from May 11th, 2023 until the public hearing, which was going to be held June 14th of 2023. This gives us our breakdown of the anticipated revenues that was spoken of on the prior sheet, as well as the expenditures that we anticipate, and our remaining fund balance, which we anticipate being at the $41.8 million. Are there any questions regarding the tentative amended budget to be put on display and placed into the district office for review? If there are no further questions, that has ended my amended budget presentation. I do want to mention that tonight we do have food service agreement that we need to put in place, and the Illinois State Board of Education, I was able to reach out and have a good communication, communication with them regarding the increase that our food service provider proposed. After conversation, that proposal requires us to terminate the contract that we are currently in, and do new paperwork that is considered a non-competitive procurement agreement. And I'll just go back to this slide just to show you. And so, just so that way we have an understanding, it's the paperwork that has to be completed under the non-competitive procurement contract in order to move forward with that agreement. So last board meeting, the board was in agreement with keeping our vendor just a dash and was okay with the rate increase. I want to make sure that everyone understands that ISB made it very clear that our rates were absolutely low as far as what the state is reimbursing. So for example, $1.39 is what we were being charged for breakfast. The state was reimbursing $4, over $4 for breakfast. So because the rate was so low, they said they understood the reason why the vendor needed to increase, and that, you know, we could be in a position if we went out to bid where we would not get necessarily a good vendor at this point, but that those price points were fair and they were in alignment, still lower than what the state reimburses. So I did want to make sure that I mentioned that. The non-competitive procurement contract has been sent out to over 10 different vendors, as it has been recommended that we still do our due diligence to reach out to as many food service companies as possible. To date, there's only one company that has submitted their numbers, their proposed numbers, and that is Just a Dash. So I just wanted to make sure that I was able to give the board that information and share with you after I did my deep dive into that increase. So, all right, if there are no further questions, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Owens.
At this time, we'll turn it over to Mrs. Phillips for our audience to visitors. We have none?
Did you have, yeah, no, we have them. No, we do have them. Oh, we have some more too. We do? In the audience. Did I see anyone? No? Okay. All right. Good evening, the Board of Education Public Comment Forum. Thank you for attending the Board of Education meeting. The following policies and procedures will be followed for those persons requesting to make a public comment. The guidelines. The comment form submitted after the start of the regular board meeting will not be addressed. The Board of Education will not engage in a debate. If a comment or question requires additional research or data, the district will post such information to the district website within 5 business days of the board meeting. All responses to questions may be viewed under the Board of Education drop-down menu at www.dist159.com. The Board of Education meeting is a business meeting held in public. Please note the Board of Education's practice requires that members not respond to the public. Attendees are advised to refrain from making comments to the Board of Education as well. If you are unable to speak, you may submit your comment in writing, and it will be shared with each board member. The Board of Education recognizes the right and desires of the public to express their thoughts concerning the school district by way of making a public comment. Anyone wanting to address the Board of Education should do so in an orderly manner during the public comment portion of the meeting. In order to ensure an orderly meeting, however, comments, disruptions, and/or outbursts during the business portion of the meeting will not be permitted. If members of the public disrupt the Board of Education's meeting, we will take any and all steps necessary in order to ensure the proper decorum is reestablished. This can include such persons being removed from the premises so that we can accomplish the necessary business of the board. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Persons making public comments will be allowed 3 minutes. The Board of Education may extend or reduce the time limit at its discretion. The Board of Education will limit the number of public comments on a particular topic or issue. And if you are a member of a group or organization involving the same issue, you should coordinate your comment with others to avoid repetition. Mr. Vincent Broder, can you please come up to the podium? Good evening.
Dr. Brandon, since to meet you, Dr. Ward. I'm actually very honored to be here because I've been sitting here for 2 hours listening to nothing but excellence. And I've driven around this school for the last 20 years. I've served this school for the last 15 years in the capacity of your graduation. And I am so impressed at the level of excellence and commitment to not just this district, but to the children. I've been working in schools now for 32 years, and I've seen a lot. But I'm so happy to hear what I've heard tonight. I can't wait to share this with people all in the business world. But in saying that, I'm representing, actually, my wife designed the Ultimate Clear Backpack. This is the #1 clear backpack in the United States. We've had school systems around the country since 2007 actually purchased this product. If you all would like to hold it and see it while it's here, can I just lay it right here? Here we go. Many people have actually come to us and say, how did this happen? I was in a school in 2006, and I waited outside in the cold because I couldn't get in a Chicago public school. So I asked the police officer, I said, can you tell me what you can do to speed up this thing? He said, if we can see inside these bags, we can get these kids in the schools much faster. And a light came off in my head. So I came home, had dinner with my wife. I said, something I have to tell you, honey. And she thought it was going to be something, what, you're playing on me? I said, no, not that. I still love you. No, she was really joking. But she just asked me, she said, well, what is it? Because you're looking real serious. I said, I want you to do something great with your inventive skills. She's very inventive. She's always been like that. She's kind of behind the scenes, and some of you all know her. She's kind of quiet, but she's very intense. So I said, I need you to design a clear backpack, and let me look at it. She said, what's a clear backpack? I said, you're going to design it. Long story short, since 2007, we were the company that were in the Chicago Public Schools when they first started instituting the clear backpack. This was the bag that they used, and a couple of others that we had. And then it kind of died out because they wanted to go system-wide, but they got a lot of politics involved with CPS. And I've been in CPS, I went to CPS schools. Then fast forward, the last couple of years since COVID, we've been receiving questions about when we come back to school, because so much energy is pent up in these kids, do you have a product? And we say, yes, we do. Well, this year, things went vertical. I'm happy to report to you that we are about to get a decision from Kankakee School District 111. All of Crete went clear last year. The term is called going clear. All of Crete Monique schools went clear last year. All of Thornton Township went clear. Proviso Township is working on it right now as we speak. Harvey School District 152, Lansing, Linwood, Bloom, all of Bloom schools just went clear. Dr. Navarre just bought 3,500 bags. And there's a few more school districts, I can't think right now, and 22 CPS schools, all in the last 6 months. So something's happening. We're in touch with Nashville and many other school districts. When you hear about in-school shootings and things like that, my wife and I are on the spot. We're in touch with a lot of different people around the country, and this bag has been sent and distributed all over the country. We're happy to let you know that it's minority-owned. We're not distributors. We are the owners and the designer of this bag. So whatever decisions that are made with districts, we don't have to check with another board to get things done. We can do whatever you need us to do to make it happen for you. As of today, I think I mentioned to you, I've got 2 40-foot containers just hit the port in New York that'll be here next weekend. Another 20-footer just got ordered, and we've got orders coming right now. We think we're going to have to order 2 more 40-foot containers. That's how fast this thing is going. So you all, while we're talking about this, say a prayer for us that we can hang in here, because we want to control a project in our community. I lived out here since 1998 and served a lot of schools out here, but I'm from Chicago, and we want to be able to control a project in our community, probably so serious for the first time in our lives, to be able to have a project that people are begging for right now, and we can control it right here in the south suburbs of Chicago. I can entertain any questions right now to talk about the quality of the product and everything. Are there any questions at this time?
No questions.
Any questions? Well, thank you all. I didn't want to go real lengthy, but the bag is here is in Dr. Brunson's office. The gentleman nice enough to help me with it. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. No, that concludes our questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for your participation in tonight's Board of Education meeting. At this time, I'll make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, collective negotiation, bargaining, and board self-evaluation. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Phillips,
Second.
second by Mrs. Johnson. Roll call Edgecombe. Franklin. Johnson.
Yes.
Morton.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
And Williams.
Yes.
Thank you all so much. We will be out momentarily.
Yes.
Let's make this quick.
Did you want to take this or no? Is yours okay? Yeah.
open. It is 10:00 p.m. We will be consent to the agenda for approval. Motion to approve the open and closed session minutes for the special board meetings on April 12th, April 19th, and April 26th, 2023. Motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll as follows. Payroll for April 6th of $914,649.06. Payroll for April 21st, 2023, $880, $175.49. Accounts payables through April 2023, $1,051,689,046. And we didn't approve the comment card, that's what we didn't talk about in the back. So motion to approve, motion?
Motion.
Okay, motion by Ms. Phillips,
New comment card.
Second.
second by Ms. Johnson.
Okay, if you guys did, review the three,
Gotta do a roll call.
oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Edgecombe,
Yes.
Franklin, Johnson,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott, and Williams.
Yes.
If you all did review your public comment statements, I know we, did not go over it in closed session, but if you do have it in your board docs, we can make a motion to, vote on that at the next agenda, since we didn't discuss it.
That's fine.
Okay, so we will be tabling the approval of board public comment. And then motion to approve certified staff employment as Dr. Amber Henderson, hire for Principal Amari Yates. Anitra Hutcherson, hire 6th grade science teacher at Colin Powell Middle School. Phoebe Bake, hire special education teacher at Amari Yates. Sean Jelinek, hire special education teacher at Colin Powell. Jacob Babik, hire 6th grade math teacher at Colin Powell. Kiara Russell Clay, internal transfer STEM innovation coach at district office. Michelle Tancredi, salary increase assistant principal Neil Armstrong. Lisa O'Donovan, salary increase math coordinator at district office. And Sharice Johnson, retirement 3rd grade teacher at Seton Prairie School. Motion? Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Edgecombe,
Second.
and second by Mrs. Phillips. Roll call, Edgecombe,
Yes.
Franklin, Johnson,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott, and Williams.
Yes.
Motion to approve the support staff employment termination, Mary Murray, retirement custodian at Seton Prairie, and motions for the approval of the supplemental pay as listed on our closed session documents. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Phillips,
Second.
second by Edgecombe. Roll call, Edgecombe,
Yes.
Franklin, Johnson,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott, and Williams.
Yes.
Motion to approve the food service contract for Just a Dash and to rescind the previous one from our last board meeting and approve the new contract for the food service contract for Just a Dash. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Phillips, second by Ms. Edgecombe. Roll call, Edgecombe,
Yes.
Franklin, Johnson,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott, and Williams.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Phillips,
Second.
and second by Ms. Johnson. Roll call. Edgecombe,
Yes.
Franklin, Johnson,
Yes.
Morton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott, and Williams.
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.